Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Hi,
Welcome.
Jenna.
Welcome to our conversation.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Jen, you're one of the principal facilitators of Dieta retreats at Caya Shobo. And I know you also have a long-standing psychotherapy practice based in the Berkeley area. Um, you work as a somatic psychotherapist. You have a biography where you describe yourself as helping people who are dealing with trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder, and also supporting those in spiritual crisis or spiritual emergence.
I do work with trauma, developmental trauma, and PTSD, but also I work with kind of whatever people bring, which is a wide range of things.
Jen, I'm curious to hear about how you discovered this tradition, ayahuasca, and this particular tradition, and how your journey has been in a nutshell with, you know, um, exploring this tradition while also developing your knowledge as a psychotherapist.
Yeah, so I learned of ayahuasca and the Shipibo tradition actually when I was in my group interview for my grad school that I went to for somatic psychology. So they kind of um, coalesced. They came together right at the same time, and I started my studies, and it wasn't until a year later that I actually sat in my first ceremony. Um, and that took place in the hills of Santa Cruz, the mountains of Santa Cruz, actually, and the middle of the trees. And it was not a very strong experience, but there was something about the songs and being with other people and the whole thing that really was like, this what feels like it's been missing in my life. um and I couldn't even exactly say what it just was the totality of everything. It was like something I felt like I had been kind of coming home.
Yeah,
um
I had the same feeling when I first came to ceremony. That's a really beautiful way to describe it. It was like, oh, this is something that all the different therapies that I'd explored to try to help myself in my own journey hadn't it hadn't been able to touch. That it happened at the understanding and the movement happened at the cellular level as well as at the highest level of the mind, kind of, or the spirit, if you like.
For me, it was like I'm remembering, like the first time I drank, it's like somewhere deep down I remember what I needed to know somehow.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. I felt like this was already known. Yeah,
Mhm.
Mhm. Mhm.
within me. Hmm.
Yeah,
And
me
And
that
too. Mhm.
and Jen, when you how long before you drank your first ceremony and you started dieting, and what led you towards the diet?
It was about a year from when I started drinking to when I opened my first diet. And it just felt like the thing to do. It was a part of the tradition, and I knew other people that were doing it. And then um, I decided I was going to diet too. And it actually, my first diet, I dieted for 10 months. It was a pretty long diet. And I dieted with coca. And um, that was a really interesting thing for me because I was right at the tail end of my master's program in somatic therapy. So I began my practicum working with clients at the Center for Somatic Psychotherapy. And I started my diet with coca at the same time. And so my working with people has, at a very fundamental level, been informed by dieting for me, by dieta, because it happened right at the same time. And it was a really perfect and beautiful diet to do for that. I wrote my master's thesis while on my coca diet, and it was a lot about the mind and the way that the mind becomes disconnected from the body and kind of takes off and goes to wherever it wants, leaves like the ground of the body behind. So it was about how to reconnect really deeply to the ground, that ground.
What was that shift for you from just kind of curiosity and going along with the trend that was happening around you to actually starting to receive the deep personal teachings of the plants? Like for me, it was a kind of waking up to how much healing needed to happen, you know, as well as gifts of understanding, but really a growing, and this has continued over the years, you know, kind of growing awareness of my makeup with a call to continue going deeper in my understanding and in my commitment to transforming. I'm curious to hear how it was for you to go from curiosity to, you know, you've been a committed dieter now for a long time. Perception and perspective for the shamanic maestro in the Shipibo tradition.
When I first started dieting, I would say that I felt really dedicated. In fact, one of the early people that I used to sit with said it's like turning discipline into devotion. And so it from early on, it felt like this kind of devotion. And definitely a relationship that I was making, but I wasn't sure. It was like I was reaching out, but I didn't know exactly what I was reaching toward or for. I was kind of going in the direction of something more, I guess, but also in the direction toward a plant, you know, toward a plant spirit. And so I felt very devoted to that. And incidentally, when I was really little, I had imaginary friends, and they were Koki and Ita. And so my first diet was with Kokasita, which was funny to me. But so I felt that devotion, and I can't even say what the motivation was. It was just like, I want to get to know the plants. Even when I really didn't have a strong feeling in the beginning of what that really meant or who they were or anything. Although it was my second diet with Ahosacha, where I felt immediately the way that I was being supported by that plant, and particularly in relationship to my fear. I had to walk through the jungle at night in the dark without a flashlight, and I was pretty terrified. And when I opened with Ahosacha, that fear was gone. I felt really full of the presence of that plant and supporting me through feeling strong and courageous. So then as time went on, I started to get to know more about what it really means to diet. And that I'm still in a process of learning, for sure. It's hard to describe how the actual experience of having a relationship with a plant spirit. How do you describe that to someone that has doesn't have that experience. It's like, you know, everything really kind of fails. You know, we can give images, we can give this, and it doesn't really get at it. And so, yeah, I think it's that understanding that is has part of what has gone from curiosity to what I'm like learning, is that there is a presence there, and that's the beginning. That's only the beginning.
What about you, Nik? We didn't actually get into that earlier. Like, you said that you came at dieting for help with chronic pain. And I think in one of our other conversations, not in this series, you've talked a little bit about what happened with you on your journey with diets. But you know, listening to Jen and hearing my own comments earlier about it, I'm remembering, of course, that not only is it difficult to describe what it is, but it's different for everybody, you know. And so maybe you can share with us, with people listening, what it was like for you, Nik. What's been the major kind of theme for you in this practice?
I was laughing as Jen was describing that, and I always remember this time when I believe it was Miguel said, like, if you describe to a person what you're talking about, like talking to plant spirits, they might put you away, like they might put you in an insane asylum. But for me, I don't know if it's a male thing, but it took me a while before I realized that I could talk to these things and understand what they were teaching me. My first diet was Suelda Consuelda, and I was just kind of flowed through that one easily. I took the discipline seriously, and I would have these different colors in my dreams and colors when I woke up. I meet the spirits kind of between sleep and awakeness. It's kind of early in the morning, and I'd have all these different colors come into my vision. And then over, you know, many diets, that's when I started actually being able to understand what they were teaching me and how they take care of you so gently if you follow the discipline. How they're very, how do I describe it? Like, you can't put it to words. It's so difficult to put to words, but over time, you get to know these different energies. And the first time I actually realized it was when I reopened a diet. I had done a diet, and then I reopened the same plants, and that's when it just clued in. It was like, oh, the same colors, the same things are in my life, and that's when I could really connect to the diets. And then the teaching started coming in my ceremonies. Most of my teachings always came after the diet, though. I would be sitting in a ceremony, and it would be like a download of information in that ceremony. That's what the diet was about. That's what it helped you with. So it wasn't until my last diet where I could really pay attention to my dreams and to my kind of early waking time where I realized how to communicate with the diets. It took me quite a long time, quite a few diets to do that.
Yeah, I think it was similar for me. In hindsight, I had teachings, guidance, expressions of the work, the cleaning work in particular, that the diet was doing within me. And my first diet was lavender. You know, I had those things coming to me in the dreams or in visions in ceremony, but I struggled to apply meaning to it until later. I think it was really my third diet. My second and third diets both had ahosacha in them. The first one was just Ahosacha, and the third was Ahosacha and Bobinsana. But by the third diet, yeah, the same themes were coming up in the dreams, and I was starting to, I clued in, like you said, I got it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is guidance. This is guidance coming from the plant in a kind of plant language, not a human language. So I have to kind of open my mind a little bit to interpret that communication and explore the meaning that is being offered. And yeah, from then it kind of took off. And
also for me, it was also the how do I explain that? I took the food and I took the sex restrictions seriously, but I didn't take the time alone and the time to pay attention as seriously as the initial restrictions. And when I started taking the mental side of the diets, the discipline and what you watch on TV and all those disciplines and the time to meditate and pray, that's when I really started connecting to it.
Jen, you in your profession would have both studied and been exposed to all sorts of different modalities for healing, for personal transformation, or for supporting people with an interest in developing a spiritual life, or, as you said, just greater sense of connection either with themselves or others. In your professional work, how do you see diet comparing with these other therapies and modalities?
In many ways, it's hard for me to fully separate the process of dieting from my work, my somatic work. I see them as pretty deeply intertwined. And there are a lot of somatic modalities out there that claims that they're somatic, but can often be quite conceptual, pretty cognitive in their execution or in their discussion of things. And so that's why I really appreciate formative psychology, because it really is from the body up, from the body to the mind.
Describe for us quickly, for the layman, what is formative psychology?
Formative psychology is something that was developed by Stanley Kellerman, and it is the study of how we organize ourselves. Organize being comport, shape, how we live throughout the world, in the world, how we live ourselves in the world. There's patterns of movement and patterns of ways of being, patterns of behavior that are become really habituated. And so the process of formative therapy slows things down, has a person really engage with and feel what it is they're doing, how they're holding themselves, what kind of shapes they're making, these kinds of things. And then that becomes like the first step. That's the how, right? I'm this way. And then to work with it, it uses something called the accordion, which is to intensify it and then to disassemble it. And that process of disassembly begins to open up the possibility for the body to feed the brain with information. So when there's real strong patterned ways of being, it's the brain telling the body what to do continuously. and there's not so much space for the openness of the body to the brain for what else could be possible, for ranges of movement, for responses, and all of these kinds of things.
So the shape of the body and how we hold ourselves when we walk and sit and all of these things relate directly to the mind. Is that kind of how you're
Yes.
explaining it?
Yeah.
Okay. So with
As above,
opening
so
and,
below.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was in the jungle with Jen, nothing has helped me more than she explained to me that home is where the heart is. And I was so stuck. I was so homesick when I was there. And she explained to me, and I'm like, yeah, Jen, I was like, you idiot. I know my heart is at home with my wife and my kids. She's like, no, you idiot. Your home is where your heart is, like where it's beating. That's your home. That's where you have to live. And I take that everywhere with me. And I use that teaching everywhere.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I would say formative therapy is also really about relationship. So it's relationship to body to brain, but it's also relationship of me with myself and me with other people. And how that all plays out, and then what's working and then what's not working. So
The dieta for you.
Dieta, yeah, actually to me adds dimensionality to the foundation of the body is home, to the foundation of I am me in my body. And then there are things that are maybe working, or there are things that are not working, and the diets can come in and help. So, I mean, ayahuasca has been an amazing teacher for me about relationship. Really, fundamental teacher about what it means to be in relationship, and that everything is relationship. That the plants and the dieta are what help really bring about the transformation and the change. And so that's also relationship, but it's like tuning into the subtlety of the dialogue with a plant spirit, and that language is very similar to tuning into the body and the felt experience and learning the language of the body. The language of the mind is linear, it's didactic, it's very much word-based, conceptual, categorical. The language of the body and the language of the plants are multidimensional. And so yeah, to me, the dieta adds dimensionality to the somatic work. It adds many more layers of what it is that's happening, that we just don't have a clue about, when we're up in our minds thinking about things. We could never get there with our mind. We just couldn't. And so, yeah.
And what about, you said ayahuasca has helped you understand relationship in so many ways. What about with, these powerful entheogens like ayahuasca that are more kind of short in the moment experiences? Do you feel that it's as possible to get there as you described, in that sort of transformation of the forms with just ayahuasca, or with, there's so many these days, these different medicines that are popular and that are being administered all over the world as therapies. how for you, like, important is Dieta in that landscape?
It's vital. Yeah, I think it's vital. I was very fortunate to come to the medicine of ayahuasca through the Shipibo tradition. There are many, many traditions out there, and there are also many other medicines out there. But so I feel really fortunate to have come at it from this lens. And really, it was just like my first night in ceremony. It wasn't just about ayahuasca. It was about the Icaros, the songs. It was about the space that was created. And it was about the facilitator. It was about the and then, you know, going to the trees at night and the sky, you know, it was already, it was very much like only the beginning, you know, the like, well, taking a trip to a place for the first time, but knowing that I could get to know it so much more, which was both me and my internal landscape, as well as this tradition, this amazing tradition of Shipibo medicine. So, so ayahuasca taken alone, completely it misses the point. It's not just about ayahuasca. You can't divorce ayahuasca from the context, which is the maestros, the knowledge, the deep knowledge after, you know, years and years and years of you know, that's developed over years and years and years.
But particularly of their own Dieta practice. I feel like it's worth interjecting that the maestros receive their songs through their Dieta practice in the Shipibo tradition. They don't necessarily learn them from their teachers or their parents or family members. They receive them from the plants.
We all do, in a way. One thing I wanted to get back to was the relationship. I had to build a relationship with myself first before I could fix the relation outside of myself. So when you say it introduced that, was that the same case for you? Like you had to build a relationship with yourself to start?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that the plants are teaching me is the way that I am organized towards self-sacrifice. And so the pointing me back in the direction of me with myself has been a lot of the work.
So just to clarify, you're saying that in your journey of self-understanding, you're seeing that you have a kind of tendency towards self-sacrifice, which is not good for you. It's not healthy for you.
It's in a very unbalanced. Yeah, it's an orientation to what's outside of me, and then also to what others need. And
why do you think that you've acquired that tendency?
Well, I think it's both developmental. It's for sure it's learned. But I'm also just really curious, you know, about things that run in families. So, you know, traumas, you know, they're finding like intergenerational trauma is epigenetic. It's like, you know, you can actually pass it down to your offspring. And so that, I think it could be both for me.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to highlight that point that, you know, Nik and I earlier were talking about conditioning and about how the Dieta practice really shines a light on the conditioning that lives within us and informs the constructs that we've built for how we engage with our lives. And that for me, a lot of the emphasis of the Dieta practice has been this deconstructing, or like shaking off the constrained skin of those constructs and that conditioning. Self-sacrifice being one example where it becomes like this deeply learned way of feeling like a worthy part of the social constellation that you're in, you know.
Is it the idea of being in service but not a servant, like you're trying to clean the servant?
It's more about what's in the frame. So the frame of reference. So my habituated way is to refer to, again, to people outside of me and to what, especially, other important people in my life outside of me, and to focus my attention on what it is they need. And my frame is not so much in the picture. So it's been how to include me within my frame of reference, and even to prioritize me as the reference point, and then to see how I can be of service.
So how do you feel that the diets have particularly facilitated that personal work relative to, say, how ayahuasca can reveal those constructs or those forms to you? What is it in the diet practice that is supportive and effective?
Well, I think in my understanding thus far that in the Shipibo tradition, ayahuasca is like the diagnostic, and she can do some things for us, particularly open the doorway to the spirit world and help clean our blood and help with a sense of reconnecting with things. But that's only the beginning. So, I found that when I drink ayahuasca and I'll start to come up, see different themes in myself. And if I don't address those things, the same themes are going to continue to arise. So it'll just be like, oh yeah, this again. Oh yeah, this again. That's right. Oh yeah. So the Dieta, the master Plant Dieta, helps really shift. I think, each one of the different master plants has its own personality and its own things that it can help us with. And, so we go into Dieta with specific intention, and then we are dieting with a particular master plant that will help us with that intention. And so that's the plant is working, in ways that are still really quite mysterious to me, but on a cellular level with us. I feel these master plants are going and working, down into the level of our genetics and DNA. And then, all the way up through that.
It's not just the wisdom and the guidance that we were describing earlier. It's, I guess I'm thinking of when you're sick with a flu or cold or something, you'll take garlic or honey or whatever, and you can feel the impact in your body. These plants have that physical presence as well, as they have this like kind of powerful qualities of energy that they bring into your body, and with it is an emotional quality too that is felt, particularly certain plants that are good for helping with self-love, like morosa or swelda. And then there's also this conversation that happens at the level of the intelligence and the sharing of wisdom and the guidance and the subtle or not so subtle nudgings towards changing how you live and how you interact with life. It's like a relationship with a person. It's the full body of the expression of that person inside your world. It's quite different to just like having things revealed and having a short-term kind of cleanse.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, even the process of diet takes place over a period of time. And, even in the Shipibo tradition, 3 months is a shorter diet. So, there is that process of actual, just time spent day to day, moment to moment, building of a relationship with a plant that's, infusing itself into us, energetically and physically and emotionally and mentally, on all the levels. But then, nothing, absolutely nothing is going to really shift and make the change except for us. It's up to us ultimately. So we can have lots of guidance and we can have lots of support and help. And when it comes down to it, that extra shift, the extra step is us. It's ours to take. And so, I mean, the deconstructing, I think also, all of these things are, they're not just concepts, like it is a physical
movement
thing. Yeah, it is a physical movement ultimately, and then there's aspects of that. There can be mental aspects of that and emotional, there are dimensions, but like, the destructuring and the deconstructing happens at a physical level. And then from that offers, again, the possibility for something different, for new ways of moving and being in the world. And the expression of essence, which may be blocked, but blocked not just like mentally, blocked like how we block it physically.
How we hold ourselves.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if it wasn't for that deep change, I don't know if you would keep coming back. Like I have people who are kind of outside of the medicine and they're like, why do you keep dieting and what keeps you going? And it's like, the change, the new me, the new being. And like, is that kind of how it's been for you guys? Like, what keeps you guys both coming back to not torture yourself, but almost put yourself in these deep restrictions for periods of time? For me, it's the change. It's being a better human being every day. And the only one who really notices it are my closest friends. So yeah, I just want to hear like what keeps you guys coming back to dieting.
For me, there's an interesting kind of nugget of consideration here. Jen, you said that it's not that the plants will make the change for you. You can receive the guidance and the support and kind of this nudging and movement that happens, but ultimately it's up to you to make that change or not. And I think this is a really important core consideration for long-term dieters, is that question of self-responsibility for transformation. And I think it's also what perhaps this is not accurate, but perhaps it's just kind of an insular view, but I do feel that in the Caya Shobo community in particular, our emphasis on this priority core importance of self-responsibility for transformation and first of all for self-awareness, for actually not just being attracted to the gifts of the guidance and the visions and the beautiful things or the challenging things that the diets can present to you, but having as a priority motivation understanding yourself and hopefully finding ways to be responsible, to be better for yourself and better for your family and for your community and for your world and for your life. That, for me, that whole central concept is like, I don't think I'm ever going to get tired of exploring that.
So it's a deep curiosity too of what this is.
Well, I think it's curiosity, but it's also, as Jen mentioned earlier, this devotional aspect, without that being like a helmet that's kind of put on you. It's like a sacred meaning at the core of my life, which gives me direction. And I think in all spiritual traditions, there's a kind of consideration of how we will die, of how death will come, and of having a mindfulness and a preparedness to have lived in our heart, in our core, to the best of our understanding. I'm curious to hear from you, Jen, about those comments and your own kind of central priorities.
Yeah, I think there is a way I am coming to know myself through the process of dieting that I like very much. And like a very simple way. It's a way that I feel myself, a way that I move through the world, and a kind of like joyfulness, you know, that dieting has really offered me and continues to offer me. So it's like, I want more of that. And, you know, like life isn't, what is life about really? Like when it comes down to it, like what is it about? And, I mean, sure, maybe that can be answered differently for different people, but there is something about the fullness of it, actually being fully alive, vibrantly alive. The process of the dieta is really helpful for me in that creating and sustaining vibrancy, and but also, yeah, like a deep connection to my heart, to love, like and loving. And there's something so inherently satisfying about that, just in and of itself. And then there's this piece about responsibility and self-responsibility. And it's so funny how self-responsibility can be such a difficult thing. It's like really actually kind of wild to me. But I'm learning, you know, to see responsibility as responsibility, the ability to respond. And self-responsibility would be the ability to respond to myself. And myself isn't just my conceptual self, it is my bodied self. So forming and creating a deeper responsiveness to my life, living in this moment and in the next and in the next, and to a commitment to that unfolding, which isn't something that I could predict. It isn't something that I could plan. And it is deeply embedded in the process of life itself that's happening all around. And so that's responsibility. That's responsibility. And that through that, there's automatically, without like really having to think about it, a responsiveness to the world around me, greater responsiveness to the world around me. So yeah, that's why I keep dieting, because
Yeah, I feel listening to your description, that when I talked about the religious traditions having this focus on having a good death, I think I'm coming to understand at this point in my life, and with the help of the diets, that that means having a great life. That means not only understanding yourself and making the most of your talents and your inspirations and so on, but like really seeing your spirit soar and realize everything that you were called to realize, perhaps, or whatever you can imagine for yourself, but tangibly, really. It's like by going to the depths of the understanding of the fears, the darkness, the things you've ignored, it's coupled with, well, what is possible on the light, how do I live fully? And you described it beautifully. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. There was just one other thing I wanted to say about creativity too. I think
please.
I think there's something about my connection to creativity that the process of Dieta has given me and continues to give me, like deeper and deeper sense of the connection to, the creativity that just wants to express itself.
Yeah,
creativity in in writing, drawing, or just in creativity of how you live your life?
All of the above.
Okay.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. For many years, the diets have brought me into the University of Art in the dreams, and like keep encouraging me express yourself through visual arts, which has always been a thing of interest to me, but other things. I've been learning the piano for the last few years because it was something I wanted to do as a child, and creating this podcast, creating this center, and being creative in this community. There's so many encouragements to be creative. I think that goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, Nik, about the expression of the essence of each living being. This is a natural, beautiful aspect of life and nature.
Yeah, for me it's like always wanting to build beauty from anything. Like I want my rooms to be beautiful and my surroundings to be beautiful, and that came from the medicine. It's kind of this creative idea of like holding yourself as beautiful as you can, maybe not my personal appearance, but my surroundings and my kind of family and friends, and how we can build beauty out of these things.
And the state of love that Jen was talking about, the beauty within that. I would venture that it's not that the diets brought it to you, but that they helped release the shackles that were in the way.
The fear.
There's that quote, I think it's a Rumi quote, where he says, "Let the beauty we love be what we do."
Let the beauty be loved.
No. Let the beauty we love be what we do.
Amazing.
I really, it's like, it all feels like it's like right there, essence, the free expression of our essence of life is inherently creative, and it is inherently beautiful because it is an organic process of life, which grows toward the light. That's just the natural nature, and we just have to get out of the way.
And I love that there's no two living things that are exactly the same. We are all unique expressions of life, which is like this integrative idea of beauty that's so beautiful.
Amazing.
Well, thank you, Jen. It's been an amazing honor to have you join us in the conversation, and to have your support for Caya Shobo's work and teaching. the community and now sharing more with the world about our understandings of this time-honored practice of Master Plant Dieta. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's been a real privilege.
Thank you so much, Jen. Love to see your smile.
Yeah, you too. Nice to see both of your smiles.
Okay, Jen, we'll let you go. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.
Okay, bye.
Bye for now.
I think an explanation of energy is a good place to go.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a kind of oxymoron, an explanation of energy. Like,
I know.
it's like, how do you explain something which in and of its essence is the opposite of explainable?
I know,
what I mean?
all of this, like it's hard to put words to. Even a diet, even the stuck energy, like it's all hard to put words to.
Mm-hmm. You're not going to be able to pinpoint it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like quantum physics. You try to pinpoint something exactly and it's moved.
Yeah.
You moved it, you changed it.
Yeah.
You know. So
we sure do. That's a big point in the visions too, right? Or the dreams, that you move the dream once you start talking about it or start interacting with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Yeah.